the Ram temple is the first case where the Hindus have actually got back a site after 500 years of struggle, and that through court intervention. But during the time that they did not have any power and that masjid has been built over there, they never surrendered that site. That is the most, when I studied this phenomena at Ayodhya, I was not aware that this is replicated in every sacred site that we want to study.
Okay.
So in Ayodhya, we know that the temple was destroyed by Babur in 1528. And perhaps not so well known is the fact that the masjid party in court was not able to produce one bit of evidence to show that they were there from 1528 to 1858.
Okay.
That means for over 300 years, there is no evidence of Muslim presence at that site. Now, what does it mean? It means it's a case of smash and grab. That Babur just wanted to demolish a particular temple. And he occupied that space, and that's the end of the story.
Okay.
Perhaps there were not that many Muslims to offer namaz over there. But the fact is that when we talk about contesting claims, the Hindu claim at that site is so well documented that it is amazing. Now, I would like to give you the first evidence that we have. It is of an English traveler to India. His name was William Finch. He came around 1604 or 1608. So he is traveling wherever he is going, he is writing his account.
Okay.
And he doesn't know that this account is going to be used for 500 years later.
Right.
So in any case, he comes to Ayodhya and he goes to that site. And he says that, Hindus come here, they take a dip in the Saryu river. And, there are Pandits who record the names of these people who have come. And when they go back, they take black burnt grain with them. Now, that is something which needs to be explained because that has a lot of significance.
Okay.
All right. Then the next account is by a Jesuit traveler. I can't call him a traveler because he lived in India for 40 years.
Okay.
And he even died in India and is buried in India.
I see.
So he wrote copiously because he was, he was interested in science, mathematics, so many other things. And in his work on Ayodhya, he lived in this area for 7 years.
Okay.
He lived in India for 40 years, but in this Awadh area for 7 years.
Okay.
And his account is very, very significant because he's the first person to say, he provides sketches of the building, and he's the first person to say that, the Hindus have created a Vedi. Vedi means Vedi or cradle.
Okay.
Cradle is for a newborn.
Of course.
So he says they have created a Vedi and they come and circumambulate around it. And on Ram Navami, he mentions Ram Navami, so many people come. So these are eyewitness accounts of Hindu presence at that site. And then, we have this officer of the Faizabad District Court. In 1822, he files a report in the Faizabad District Court and he says that Babri Masjid was built on the temple and it is next to Sita Ki Rasoi.
Okay.
So he is saying that Babri Masjid is built on the Janmasthan temple. After that, I forgot to mention one more thing. That, Akbar, Emperor Akbar, he gave 6 bighas of land to Hanuman Tila.
Okay.
Hanuman Tila is very near the Janmasthan in Ayodhya.
Okay.
And that grant that he gave had to be renewed about 100 years later by a subsequent Mughal emperor. So the grant is renewed and the person who writes that imperial order, he says that, this emperor has renewed this grant for 6 bighas of land to Hanuman Tila. I am writing this imperial order. I'm writing it from the Janam Sthan of Ram.
Okay.
He is writing in Persian.
Okay.
And he's just copying the imperial order so that it can be handed over to Hanuman Tila or wherever. And he's saying, I'm writing this imperial order from the Janam Sthan of Ram. So, there are many of these accounts in Persian, in Urdu later on. And all these accounts that were written in the 18th, 19th century, they say that Babri Masjid was built on the site of the Ram temple.
Okay.
There is no account that I'm aware of that was written in the medieval period in Arabic, Persian or Urdu, which says that Babri Masjid was built on vacant land.
Okay.
They're all unanimous that it was built on the site of the Ram temple. And what is very interesting, I think it was Lord Ram trying to protect his territory, that, in the British period, many cases were filed between the Mahents and the Mutawallis of the masjid. Because the Mahents were, you see, when I talk about masjid, I have to clarify that there is a compound. In that compound, there is the masjid, and the rest is vacant land within the boundary. So, that means that the masjid people have come in at some point, we don't know when. Because for 300 years, they were not able to produce any evidence of their presence over there.
Okay.
So, in 1857, there is the Great Revolt.
Yes.
And after that, the British actually become in charge of the administration of Awadh.
Okay.
So, now they are the controlling authority.
Okay.
So, from 1858, the judicial apparatus is under their control. So, in Faizabad District Court, from 1858 till 1947, there are a series of cases which the two parties have filed against each other.
Okay.
And it's miraculous that no attempt was made to protect these valuable documents, and they survived intact until the cases came up for hearing in independent India.
I see.
So, the first case that comes up in the Faizabad District Court is an FIR filed by the Thanedar of Awadh. He says that, yesterday, 25 Nihang Sikhs have entered Babri Masjid. They started Havan and Puja. And I'm filing this report. And he says that in the walls of the masjid, they've written Ram Ram.
Nihang Sikhs. Okay.
So, this is the first report. So, the next day, the Mutawalli means superintendent of Babri Masjid, he files a case in the British Faizabad court. And he says that, these people have entered and they have started Havan Puja, etc. And then he signs, because who's making this complaint? So, he signs that I am the Mutawalli, Masjid at Janam Sthan. Anywhere in the world, can you have a masjid named Janam Sthan? That itself is a giveaway.
It is.
So, they were very conscious of what they were doing. Then, the revenue records of the British, British were very careful about collecting revenue. Wherever they went, the first thing they did was to prepare the revenue settlement. So, in the British revenue settlements, this masjid is not mentioned at all.
Okay.
Babri Masjid is not mentioned. That area is mentioned as Janam Sthan.
Okay.
And these British documents, revenue documents, were made public because in case you want to file an objection that, you have to have the papers.
Yes.
So, no objection was filed by the masjid party that why is it called Janam Sthan. So, there's so many things, that no Waqf was prepared in 1944. UP government said a list of Waqf property of Shia and Sunni mosques should be prepared. So, it was prepared.
What exactly is Waqf?
Waqf means that when you construct a masjid, there has to be some way of in meeting the incurring expenses.
Okay.
Like in the sense the masjid has to be repaired.
Upkeep and all that.
Upkeep. The mutawalli has to be paid.
Yes.
When there is a special namaz, for whatever reason, special provisions have to be made.
Okay.
So when you have a masjid, you have to provide for its upkeep.
Okay.
So in the case of Babri Masjid, it's written that it was made in 1528, Emperor Babur. But Waqf, that column is left blank.
Okay.
Because why would Babur make a Waqf? He was just interested in destroying that temple. He never, I think, visualized that it would be actually used as a masjid.
Okay.
So there was no Waqf made, and the Allahabad High Court said that the absence of Waqf is a fatal flaw in the case of the masjid party.
Okay.
So, there are so many of these things. Just a last thing that I want to say on this, that the ASI conducted excavations on orders of the Allahabad High Court.
When was this?
In 2010, I think.
Okay.
2010 judgment came, I think it was in 2007. So the ASI conducted excavations at that site.
Okay.
Two things I want to say about the excavations. First of all, the excavations showed continuous occupation of that site from the 2nd millennium BC.
2nd millennium BC. Okay.
Second, that site was never used for habitational purposes.
Okay.
No palace of a king or dwelling of a important person was ever made there. There were a series of sacred structures, one after the other.
Okay.
Including a shivling, etc. And then they found that there was a temple there in the 10th century.
Okay.
That temple was destroyed.
Okay. So there is evidence of destruction.
Yes.
Okay.
And they said that on that destroyed temples, in the 12th century, this grand Ram temple was built.
Okay.
Why is it important? Because it shows that the Hindus are determined never to surrender that site. So when that temple was destroyed, we don't know how it was destroyed, but on that they built the temple in the 12th century, which Babur destroyed in the 16th century. Now, the court could not find any evidence, or rather the masjid party could not provide any evidence. So, as a historian and as concerned citizens, we have to ask ourselves, we have to introspect that this was a case which, injected so much poison in the polity. So it was just a handful of committed people who were determined to vitiate the atmosphere and to deny the Mandir party what was rightly theirs.
Okay.
Because if you're not able to produce any evidence on your side, then you have to have the grace to say that it deserves to be given back.
Yes.
But, and finally, when the Supreme Court gave the judgment, this judgment could have been given 50 years earlier.
I'm sure it could have. What
was the thing? That you hand over this site and we give you land somewhere else.
Okay.
Isn't it? The Supreme Court said, this you have to hand over to the Hindus. You have lost a masjid, so we are giving you land to construct a masjid elsewhere. So what was the problem in arriving at this solution 40, 50 years ago?
Because all the evidence was already there. Right?
All the evidence was. There is nothing new that was unearthed. All this evidence was there. And the other point is that none of this evidence was, offered by the temple party.
Okay.
Because the accounts of the Europeans were there. They were there well before the BJP or VHP came into the picture.
Yes.
The British court documents were there.
Yes.
There was no BJP there. The revenue records were there. Everything was there. The only thing was the ASI excavations.
Okay, that's the only thing that's new.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which means that, a biased media and a handful of committed historians, if I can call them.
All right, academics, historians, yeah.
They could hold the country to ransom from 1989.
Okay.
Because they intervened first in 1989.
How so?
You see, what happened was that there was a feeling among Muslim people that, this site really doesn't mean much to us.
Okay.
So let us hand it over to them. And that is when committed Marxists, it's on record, they came to the Muslim side and said, don't surrender. You have a case. We will provide you the evidence.
Okay.
So they misled that party. And then, sentiments harden when the conflict goes on and on. So this was the case. According to Dr. K.K. Mohammed, ICHR, the chairman was Professor Irfan Habib.
Okay.
And he said that ICHR was turned into a branch of the Babri Masjid Action Committee.
Okay.
And he has detailed. I don't want to get into the personalities of the thing, but in my book, I have a chapter on Professor Irfan Habib.
Okay.
That has not been refuted by anyone because I think as academics, we should keep the decorum and, we should maintain some civility. But I have exposed him so thoroughly on the Babri Masjid inscription.
Okay. Inscription, what inscription is this?
So what happened when the masjid fell in 1992 when it was broken, then an inscription 5 feet by 2 feet fell from the walls of the masjid.
From the wall of the structure. Okay.
Okay. So, and what was the atmosphere at that time? The entire world media was there.
Yes, yes.
So this was clinching proof that the temple is there because the inscription talks about the temple.
What was this inscription? What did it say?
This inscription was first of all 5 feet by 2 feet.
All right.
And it was in pristine condition because it was embedded in the wall.
All right.
So it had not, been damaged in any way.
Okay.
But when it fell, it broke into two. But the loss of a few letters in the inscription didn't amount to much because you could easily read it.
All right.
Now, the inscription, everybody said, now, it has fallen. Now, these people will have to admit that.
What did the inscription say?
Now, so what happened was that Irfan Habib said, he was the first person.
All right.
He said that this inscription has been planted there.
All right.
So, the thing is that we asked that, planted when the entire media is there. And it's not something in your pocket that you can put a hanky and just plant it over there.
Yes.
5 feet by 2 feet is a lot.
That's a lot.
So then, if it has been planted, where was it all this time? If you're saying it did not fall from the walls, it was somewhere. So he said it was in a private collection.
Okay.
Now the thing is that, I love Indian art. I also have some pieces, but I cannot keep a 5 foot by 2 foot inscription in my drawing room.
Indeed.
So where will I keep it? And I don't know the value of it. So then it's in some basement of mine. And then I bring it. So we said, we'd like to know who's the private collector who had this inscription.
Please furnish the,
Yeah. So they were not able to furnish the name because there was none.
Okay.
Then he modified his stand.
Okay.
And said that actually it was stolen from Lucknow Museum.
Okay. Now new story. Okay.
So then, I was one of the people who wrote to Lucknow Museum that is this inscription, has it been stolen? So then Lucknow Museum wrote back to me, inscription number so and so is very much in our possession.
All right.
Okay. But that's not the end of the story.
Okay.
Imagine to what lengths one can go to further your agenda.
Right.
And then what happened was that it was our word against his word. All right. We are saying that it has not been stolen. Lucknow Museum is saying it has not been stolen. We have that inscription number. But the professor was a big name.
Okay.
So you can never imagine how history will unfold itself in the most unlikely way. What happened was that a person called Kishore Kunal, he was appointed the PMO as officer on special duty on the Ayodhya cell.
Okay.
So he decided to go to Lucknow Museum. And he said, I want to see this inscription. Now, we cannot go to Lucknow Museum and say, you want to see this inscription, because it's not on public display. Everything is not on public display in any museum.
Yes.
So he went there and he said, I want to see this. And he took a photograph. So he published that photograph. And that photograph showed that inscription was also in two parts.
Okay.
But one part had nothing to do with the other part. And the inscription was so badly damaged, you could not even read a letter.
I see.
So, I mean, this inscription, which was found in Ayodhya. So then the Allahabad High Court asked the ASI to get the inscription deciphered.
Okay.
And the chief epigraphist was a very, very eminent scholar, K.V. Ramesh. He has just recently passed away.
I see.
He read the entire inscription. His reading was accepted by the Allahabad High Court, and that reading has not been challenged by anyone.
Okay.
So that is the official reading of an inscription which talks about the temple being in honor of the person who killed the 10-headed
Rakshas,
etc.
Okay.
So, and it also talks about, the fear of Westerners.
Okay.
So, is it, that the invasions had started? Because Babur came much after Mahmud Ghaznavi and all that.
Yes.
So, but it talks about fear of Westerners.
Okay.
But it's very clear that it refers to this temple. It gives the name of the person, it gives the name of the family, the whole history it gives.
Okay.
So, I would imagine that, in such a revelation, the other side would feel somewhat embarrassed and at least offer some kind of public apology, which is nowhere near the theme. But according to me as a historian, the one benefit of the Ayodhya movement has been the total exposure of left historians.
Right.
And now, if you see what is happening in Mathura and Kashi, you don't find any left historian making any statement.
Okay.
Otherwise, they were in the press every day. Every day you would hear statements of the big four or the big five of the left historians.
Okay.
And the media was all the time playing up what they were saying. They were not giving adequate space to the other side, which they were dismissing as, rabid whatever.
Okay. Okay.
But, and that is when all the evidence was on the other side. So, as a student of history, I feel that the left historians and left activists and left archaeologists, they suffered in a big way because of the stance that they took on Ayodhya, which contradicted all the available evidence. So now, in a sense, they are in retreat. Of course, they grumble and they complain, and occasionally you will hear some comments or some speech or talk. But that aggressive attitude that they had in the Ayodhya case, that is totally missing.
Okay.
So that is what I have to say on Ayodhya. There's a lot more that I can say, but I've already talked so much about it, written 2 books.
Yes, you have, yes.
And I think that I would really like to move on to other aspects of my study, which Ayodhya is very important because, now next year the temple is going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister.
Yes, indeed.
So it's very important for us to know about it.
Yes, it is.
As you said, most people really don't know even now what a strong case the Hindus had. But they're not also aware of how badly the left historians were exposed in court.
Indeed.
And so many lawyers, if you see the way they behaved in the Supreme Court, I mean, when the Supreme Court was hearing the thing, people were tearing up papers and documents which were going against the Masjid party. Is that the way to fight a case?
Wow, amazing.
You know? But I would like to say, this is one case, the solitary case, where the Hindus have reclaimed a site through court intervention, and that also after 500 years.
After 500 years.
And if you look at Spain, for example, when the Arab armies conquered parts of Spain, there was no cathedral that they did not convert into a masjid. But when the Spaniards threw out the Arabs, there was no masjid that they did not reclaim as a cathedral. So, I mean, I'm glad for our success, but it is very, very slow. And I'm not advocating any forward policy on this.
Of course.
But I think that the Hindu, patience, it has not been appreciated by the critics, and large sections of the intelligentsia, they have a grudging acknowledgement of the Hindu victory. It's not a Hindu victory. After all, the point is it's a civilizational victory, according to me. You know? It was a struggle. And who were the people who were fighting this struggle? They were ordinary people who were going there. There was no Hindu king there who was, saying, come, come. It was all a people's movement. Imagine Tiffin Thaler saying that on Ram Navami, people come and do parikrama. Who was telling them?
No one.
No one. And that is the beauty of our civilization. It has stood the test of time. It has survived the most horrendous instances in its history. Only because of the dedication of the common people. It is the common people who have not forgotten their heritage. And there has been a disconnect with our heritage. I think post-independence particularly, with a section of our English educated, I include myself among them. It took me a long time to, come back.
I know what you mean.
So till 1947, there was no disconnect. Look at the people who were there in the freedom struggle. Surendranath Banerjee, Bankim Chandra, all those people who wrote so much about India. They were totally connected to the thing. They all had Western education. But after independence, I don't know what happened. But I think that things are changing, and we are people finding their roots and their civilizational ethos and traditions. They're reconnecting with them.